Hey there, welcome to Simply Worldbuilding. I'm a regular duck muscle.
And I'm a little Dutch boy.
And what are we doing today, Tyler?
We're going to talk about 3 world building tips to make your storytelling better and work for you. So, in general, I think that the main idea is show, don't tell. For the number 1 tip, I'm going to talk about, I like to call it passive storytelling, and that is world building in things that sort of explain your story for you. Because tip number 1, an engaged player or reader is going to do way more storytelling to themselves than you will ever give them credit for as a writer or a DM. So by this I mean, think about the times that you've played a game like Fallout, for instance. This is one of the examples. And you see those like skeletons just kind of laying around the map, and they're all set up in these scenes and stuff like that. You know, like you can listen to all the audio files that you want, but some of the most like engaging and funny and makes you think stuff is just the scenery that you find lying around. There may be like 2 skeletons holding hands at the park, like on a bench or whatever, and there's like the remnants of a flower bouquet or something like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of tells you, like, without having to be explained, that like this nuclear apocalypse that happened in the Fallout setting happened very abruptly on a day like any other day, and this is like a couple that was out at the park and like celebrating their anniversary or something like that. So that's my number 1 tip, is put in things into your world that sort of tell the history in the background and show that your world is a moving, thinking, living place. Because when people see things that are happening or have happened that had significant impact on the world, they're going to do so much more thinking and world building and storytelling for you that you don't have to sit there and explain to them. And that's way more fun and engaging as a reader or a player than having somebody monologue at you.
Yeah, true. These are the things that you can just like merely describe, and I guess if they want elaboration, they will ask.
100%.
But like you say, just like I feel like Fallout, and I think a lot of that sort of Bethesda game in general does a lot of that sort of thing. Fallout, as someone who's played like copious hours of it, is kind of like the game I think does it almost best. You know what I mean? Because like, and a lot of the times they're funny. Sometimes those instances are very serious and have like very dark connotations, and you're like, oh man, that sucks. Like if you ever see like, again, like a skeleton and it's like clutching a teddy bear or something like that. Like there's always like the scene is painted before you with merely the visuals.
Exactly. And like think of like, you step out of your cryo sleep, let's say, for instance, if they wanted to start a game like that, you can have that, Bethesda. They haven't done that yet. And like you walk out and you see that the city is destroyed. There's like a big crater in front of the X building, whatever. There's nuclear waste everywhere, and the tube of ooze with a picture of a mouse beside it is broken empty, and then you run into a mutated big ol' spooky gross radiated rat. Like you can get what's happening there without anybody having to tell you. You're like, okay, so nuclear war broke out while I was in sleep. They hit that building with a nuclear bomb and it spilled the goo and it turned into a, you know, like you can put the story together without them ever having to make you pick up one of those like audio files and listen to a 2-minute monologue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a really important thing. And the key difference in that in a video game versus you doing that in a tabletop game is you do still have to describe that setting. So you have to make sure that's still something you're going to say, but it definitely adds the flavor to the area around it, and then as people think about it, they'll start to put those things together. So it sort of blossoms like there's describing stuff, and it's like, oh, that was a really cool description. But when that description describes more things than the words themselves,
that's exactly it. Like, you have all heard the term "a picture is worth 1,000 words," and as writers and DMs, we only have words. That is our curse. We can only use words for the most part.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is plant that image
Yeah.
in their heads so that then they can come up with all the 1,000 words in their head.
Yeah.
And you can spend a little bit less time speaking at them, telling them, oh, this is what you see, this is how you feel, because they are seeing it and feeling it for themselves. And that puts in a lot of the background work that now you don't have to, and it feels more genuine, it feels more powerful when they kind of come up with the truth of this world to themselves, right?
Yeah. Trying to think of I've been trying to think of like a real example I've actually used in this. The first thing that comes to mind in the current campaign, the first city you guys were in, the city of Crestbridge, it's primarily species-wise dwarf and human. That's just kind of the primary. You'll find smatterings of everyone else, but for the most part, that's the primary populace. And there were sort of sections of town or sort of districts. One of which was very much the dwarven district. And when you went there, it was very clear that a lot of these buildings were older. The streets weren't necessarily paved. The architecture was very clearly dwarven, of course, but just generally older and more ancient than when you moved into the human side of town. Now, dwarven architecture was everywhere, including the great walls that surround the city. But after a little bit of context, like the dwarves were kind of here first, and as the human population grew, this very important landmark became important to everyone, and so the city expanded, especially with the human population. And so just with what this one section of town being primarily dwarven and looking older sort of showed, is that the dwarves were always here first, and that everyone else kind of moved in around them, and this did create a sort of a bit of a culture clash, and the dwarves were actually sort of suppressed because the humans that had moved in there had become more monetarily powerful. You have old district that is very, very clearly dwarven, and everywhere else being a lot newer. Just already what that tells you is the fact that dwarves were here first, now they're suppressed. That brings up questions like, okay, how did this happen? Why are the dwarves not the primary beneficiaries of this city and stuff like that? It can bring up lore questions, but what it tells you is those few things and gives you a little bit more context into the town itself, without having for me to literally explicitly tell them as a character or hand them a book that tells them these things. You can get these little bit of extra contexts merely from the physical description, but the physical description implies further depth.
Yeah.
That's the first example I can think of.
Also, like, the best way to fill in these sort of gaps in what you have actually already written and built is to let people run around in your world, right? And then sort of get the feedback and see what comes up because of the things that you've built. And so when you start getting this player feedback, it helps you fill in the gaps like that. So if you build these sort of passive storytelling things in there, then they can sort of flesh out the world, and then you receive that back from them and make it canon or make it partially canon or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it really helps you fill in the rest of your world, and it tells a story for you just to let them run around and see these things that you've sort of built these scenes in with, right? That tell a story without you having to tell.
Yeah, and so it's to kind of try and sum it up, it's you're going to use a certain amount of words, but try in your descriptions to have those words say more than you have said, in a weird way of putting it. But
well, another example that I'll throw out there, for instance, is like, and maybe I'm the odd one out here, but I actually don't really know what the story is for Mad Max. Mm-hmm. But when you watch a Mad Max movie, for instance, you kind of have all the pieces you need to put the story together, despite the fact that, if I'm remembering it right, they don't tell you in the movie, or the movies that have come out since I've been watching them, at least. But you can kind of tell that, like, you have this, like, hellish wasteland where there is, like, beating sun, sand, no water, like, the currency is, like, water, oil, and bullets, and it kind of sets this scene of, like, there was like a environmental catastrophe, maybe it was because of the oil, because the oil is like one of the big things left. So maybe it's a fossil fuel thing. I'm not making any statement on it, but you know what I mean. And like, so now water and bullets and oil is like the currency, and these are the three big like nations and stuff like that. And you can kind of make the story for yourself of what happened. If they don't explain it anywhere, maybe they actually do, but you don't need it because you get the idea with just those few things.
Yeah, it's context clues that lead you to kind of put together the story yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, try and think of these things and then try and remember to say them, because I'm also horrible for doing that, thinking like, oh man, this'll bring up questions, and then it's the one thing I actually forget to put into the description of the place when I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Rough when it happens.
True. When you're introducing a new place, it can be pretty easy to forget all of the paragraphs that you've written about it, or at least remember the important like 3 sentences out of all those paragraphs you say about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is fair. But anyway, that's my number 1 tip: is build passive storytellers into your world so that they can do the thinking for you.
Mm-hmm. So tip number 2 of the sort of show don't tell is when it comes down to you trying to show how powerful something is, how influential something is, or anything like that. One of the easiest ways I find to quickly put into your players' minds that, oh, this thing is powerful, is to immediately introducing them to something that is supposed to be scary to them, and then having what you want to be scary come in and destroy that thing. So the example I can give is in the current campaign, there was this sort of evil lake. I know it sounds weird, bear with me. But basically this lake had been sort of corrupted by necrotic energies, so to speak, and so it had come to life and started to, consume the life around it for food. It would literally like reach out to anything along its beaches and grab it and yank it in, and just adding to the pile of bones and muck at its disposal. And my players had stumbled across it. And in order to prevent them from merely going for a little swim, I figured it would be best if I let them know exactly how fucked up this thing is. And so how I had done that is one of the players finally stumbled upon the lake. And as they did so, not knowing that the lake was anything amiss or awry, a dragon flew in and landed beside the lake. Now, the player, wanting to not get straight up eaten, hid and observed for a moment. The dragon stood around and naturally started to, look around and maybe was on their way to detecting the player. But as they did so, and as the dragon actually approached the lake more thoroughly, the lake reached out and wrapped around the dragon and slowly pulled it in as it did everything in its might to resist. And it wasn't an ancient dragon, but it was a dragon nonetheless, and it was pulled beneath the waves of the lake and consumed, which I think illustrated for my players well enough that, oh, this is a serious problem and should be avoided. And in the instance where they did end up fighting it, they approached it with a little bit more caution than they might have in the had they not had that context immediately.
That one's simple math. Dragon, lake. Lake greater than dragon. Therefore, lake scarier than dragon.
Yeah, well, no, that's precisely it. Like, you joke about it, but it's such an effective way of doing things. Like, I was lucky enough that in this case, dragons are already built up to be something that you should be scared of, especially at the level you guys were at the time. But if you don't have that luxury, one thing you can do is try and have them have a encounter with something that you believe to be challenging, and you do your best to make that a challenging encounter. And then when, you want to basically have whatever the actual big bad that you want to make super scary, have it destroy one of those things. So you can present them with a difficult encounter to show them, hey, this thing was tough. Now I'm going to show you something way tougher than that. And it's not even specifically combat that this can work for as well. This can also work for just like status of NPCs. Mm-hmm. Like picture a
No, it's true, because like the first thing I think of is like you meet you know, the first guy that stands up to you and treats you like crap, and you hate that guy. Maybe he's like the captain of the guard or something like that, and he's just a bully and he's mean and you hate him. And then all of a sudden a new guy comes along and like immediately this bully is like whimpering and cowering and you're like, oh, so that guy bigger than the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. I was even going to say, like, oh, you're dealing with a lord of a local land who's getting all up in your steez, and then, you know, his boss comes around and immediately he's, groveling at his feet, like, oh, no, you know, I'm sorry, sir. And it just immediately tells you, oh, this guy is, like, the nth degree comparatively. So, yeah, you can do it for also, like, status of people and other things as well.
You can also do it for, actually, I talked about something similar in another one of our tips video. Check that out. Where it's about like scenery. So if you're trying to like sort of broadcast like the vibe of an area and to make traveling better and faster, check that video out. Is like to quickly get across something is you can do something, do it again, do it a third time bigger.
Yeah,
and
totally.
then that way, like, it really, really shows you exactly what this world is all about because you've seen it multiple times in succession, and the third one is the biggest and the grandest and whatever. And it tells you that that's the big thing about this area, and that is a magical memory or vision of this place. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think an example we were kind of giving is like, oh, it's you're in some place that's like very rainforest, very Amazon, big rivers, waterfalls, et cetera, and maybe you're approaching some sort of, you know, water feature that is, you know, grand, magical, and you want to be like, let's say it's like the area where like some sort of mermaids live or something like that. You show them sort of, you know, the river that is, you know, wide and grand and sparkly, and you give it all the fun words that make it sound cool. You show them perhaps a waterfall further upstream where they're going, and again, describe that as well as you can. But then by the time you get to this third place and you start to go into the details of that one, it really, shows them, oh, this place isn't just nice, it's special. It's not just, wow, look at that excellent waterfall. It's like, nah, this is Niagara Falls. Like, this isn't just any old little waterfall that you stumble across.
You come across a beautiful, refreshing waterfall once. You're like, oh, wow, this is so nice. The second waterfall, a little nicer. Hey, you mentioned a second waterfall. That's cool. And maybe there's a mermaid swimming around in the shallows here. And then you travel a little further and they feel it before they see it. The rumble in their chest, the spray is forming rainbows in the sky. And then they turn the corner and there's like the Niagara Falls, the Victoria Falls of like waterfalls. And they're like, okay, this place is, incredible. And there's like, look at all those mermaids splashing around. And like, you know, you can do these things where you set it up a second time, and then you go in for the kill with a big version of the thing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's in the show Don't Tell, making something that you want to illustrate as excellent better than something that they have kind of a handle on is just, it's the easiest way to show that whatever you're trying to illustrate is excellent or dangerous or powerful. So that is my tip number 2 for trying to show, don't tell in your storytelling.
For tip number 3, if my first tip was passive storytelling, my third tip is active storytelling. So in this case, we're going back to the roots of show, don't tell. Let's say, for instance, that your travelers have just liberated a village from the goblin scourge that plagues them. Instead of coming back and saying like, oh, all of the villagers are so grateful, like you've really saved them, they're able to live again or whatever like that. That evokes a feeling, sure, but I want you to pull out those feelings from them and show them how this has impacted their lives instead of telling them that it's impacted their lives.
Yeah, not just showing up, be like, thanks, and then like, next person, oh, thanks, that was great.
Exactly.
Third person, wow, excellent, thank you very much. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, so like as they walk into town, instead of, again, like, oh, all the villagers gather around and shake your hand and they praise your name, tell them that, you know, well, rather, show them that people are poking their heads out of their houses again. There's children playing in the streams that they haven't played in 2 years. There's a man who's heavily bruised up and maybe a little rusty, but he's playing his trombone outside again because that practice that music has been banned in the village for the last 2 years, and he's finally able to go out and practice his art again or something like that. Tell them that they smell fine confectionaries finally coming from a bakery that was boarded up 2 years ago. These kinds of things. Like, really build up the scene to show that, again, your world is active and moving, and the people there have lives, and their lives have been impacted this way by their actions, rather than telling them that, they're very grateful, and trust me, you've really helped them out. Show them how much better their lives are now that these things have impacted their world, because the world is a living, sentient place, and they have just impacted it in this way. So now how does it react to that, what they did? Not only does this tell the story that your world is a moving, living, breathing, feeling thing, but it also really feels like they're impacting it, rather than being told, like, trust me, you've done a good thing. Like, you can believe me because I'm the writer and the DM or whatever.
Yeah.
Make them feel it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, that can be absolutely a huge reward as well. And it can also be a motivator. Like, picture the same town, but in reverse. It was a, sort of clean, lively place for many a villager to thrive in. But ever since the death of the Lord, his son has come in and started to impose rules and sort of overstep his bounds in a way. Perhaps he's sort of in a militaristic way, and the villagers can't really do anything about it. All of a sudden, in a place where you were used to children playing in the streets and Mr. Big Bingus playing his trumpet in the streets, it's silent. No one's around, and maybe you even do see a kid who had actually snuck out to want to go play in the streets, as he is used to being able to do, and the parent swooping in, grabbing them, covering their mouth, and quickly retreating back into the home from whence they came, and the sound of the lock behind them.
The guards gathering up local, people playing music in the park or something like that, because the expression of your feelings and whatever art is being repressed here or something like that, that makes them feel like, oh, this place is really getting bad. It's getting ugly here. And so, they feel like jumping in and doing something about it, right? And it's the same kind of thing as, like, an engaged player will do the work of 1,000 words that you could tell at them. So bring out those feelings and get them engaged. They want to do something, and then once they've done it, they can actively see the way that it's impacted the world and change things for the better. And that'll do more storytelling for you and bring them into your world than you could do with 1,000 words.
Yeah, exactly. It's their effects and the effects of other things on the world will, absolutely do more than this place looks like it's having a tough time.
It looks like it's having a tough time, and trust me, it used to be so much better.
Yeah.
But if they find somebody, right, one of the people that used to play music in the park, and they say, like, wow, it looks kind of shitty around here, and then this person, like, comes to tears or whatever because, like, it used to be so beautiful. Like, I come from a family of musicians, and like it's our life work to make other people's lives better, but I've been stuck indoors for the last year and a half because my cousin played the flute a little too rockin' and they beat him up for it or whatever. And then they come back to town after doing whatever, and all of a sudden they see this man again brought to tears because he's finally able to bring joy into people's lives again and stuff like that, and his cousin's with him and he's still playing a banging flute, and these are the things that will engage your players and make them feel like your world is moving around and breathing and feeling, and it's going to do so much more storytelling for you just by sort of world building that in there than you could explain to them feelingless, emotionless with 10,000 words.
Yes. Actually, even like tip 3.5, showing them these things and then taking, let's say maybe in this theoretical town, there was an NPC that they are familiar with. Showing these effects on that NPC, before that NPC even approaches them and says, oh man, stuff sucks now, guys. Can you help us out with that? If before they even reach that person, they approach their house and knock on the door and they don't answer for the first time ever, and then you knock again, and like you kind of peek in the window and it's like very clear that someone's home, but they're trying to hide, and it's like, well, it's like, hey, it's us, and then like finally the door unlocks and they peek in and they're like, get in here quick, like hurry up, and then you finally get in there and you see that like a lot of the belongings that they used to have been stripped from them and stuff like that. Like before the words are even said, you're invoking an emotional response from your players about someone that, in this example, they theoretically care about. Maybe you have a bunch of murder hobos and they don't care about anybody, but in that case, just steal their shit. Yeah. Then
Next tip video: how to make your murder hobo players actually feel things.
But still, yeah, like just say, yeah, they actually care about this NPC just for whatever reason, and doing that to someone that they personally care about is even going to do this effect and more. Yeah, it's like, oh, I feel for these people, but I don't know them, and then you find that person that's actually affected by this, that's the NPC you do care about, and that's going to double or triple the effect. Yeah. So keep that in mind as well when trying to enact that sort of thing.
So keep these things in mind when you're doing your world building, and it's going to do a whole lot of lifting in the storytelling department for you. Anyway, I think that's our tips. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the end card. Hey, welcome to the end card. Thanks for watching the whole video. If you like that, consider subscribing, maybe give it a like, or especially comment down below, because we read them, just like these comments. I got one here from that Blue Protogen on the one where we talk about giving your characters allergies to make them a little bit more fun and fleshed out. That Blue Protogen says, just imagine in a fantasy world where someone with a deathly peanut allergy accidentally eats one. What am I supposed to do? Grab an EpiPen? No. Call for the EMS, Emergency Magical Services, who will pull up in an ambulance-looking cart and administer you some kind of magical spell to clear your throat.
Probably Greater Restoration.
Or bad.
Or Revivify.
Yeah, true.
Depending on exactly how long they took.
Yeah. If they have to do like compressions, what do you think the song is? Because they're all going to be like bards. There's no Staying Alive by the Bee Gees to do your compressions to.
Is that a thing?
That's a joke for anybody who's done the first aid courses.
Oh my god.
That is a thing, yeah, because it's got the right amount of like BPM to like how you're supposed to do the compressions for timing, and it's Staying Alive, which is just funny. So they've used that one.
That's incredible. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I don't know like what tavern music they're compressing your chest to in those ages. But
it's probably you've seen those videos that are like the medieval version of this song.
Yeah.
It's probably the medieval version of
Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Okay.
Thanks for commenting that, Blue Protogen.
That was incredible. Yeah, thank you. So I have one here on our Magic is Real short, where I talk about the magic of money. This one's by RoboPie7536. It says, Canadian Wendy's got poutine? I hate being on the wrong side of the border. Yes, we have poutine at Wendy's and every other fast food place here. Just a fun little fact for anyone who doesn't live in Canada.
And if you do find poutine on the other side of the border, it's not the real stuff.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't know, man.
I mean, Wendy's poutine isn't exactly like fucking gourmet either. That's true. But yeah, no, it's absolutely a thing here. And any place that doesn't serve you a poutine, like people get like low key mad about it.
Yeah. Poutine with like shredded cheese, I've seen like shredded like cheddar cheese.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, that's not exactly like, I mean, I wouldn't say no.
I would still eat it. Yeah, 100%.
But I wouldn't call it a poutine. I would just call it fries with cheese.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fry fan, so I would still enjoy that.
Yeah.
But
actually, question for you guys if you want to leave a comment.
Hang on a second. Is this a
role reversal?
Question time? Wait, what did we call that?
I don't even know.
We haven't done one of those in a while.
Yeah, no kidding. But anyway, I have to...
Challenge time?
Challenge time?
Yeah. Here's a challenge. What weird localization do like a lot of your guys' fast food restaurants have? Like I have to know because like yeah, there's poutine here, which like there isn't poutine at every place in like there's not poutine in a McDonald's in Germany, I assume.
I want to see like McDonald's in the south of America doing like gumbo. Like they got like gumbo fries or the gumbo burger.
This is what I want to know. It's like what's your guys' local thing where it's like, oh, this is every fast food place has this here, but they don't have it anywhere else. I have to know because I was thinking about it the other day, and it's just driving me insane, and I don't want to Google it.
One thing that I actually do know, and I'm very jealous about, is chicken and waffles.
Bruh.
They don't do it here like they do down there.
Yeah, no kidding.
I've had one good chicken and waffles, and I've never found one like it again.
Wow.
So they got that. They got that going.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, please, I beg you, let us know, because it's just killing me not to know. But anyway, thank you, RoboPie. All right, so we got another one here from Nelson is a fan.
Thanks, Nelson.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I hope it's us. If not, it's fine. But so Nelson says, this is in the character allergies short as well.
Oh, good short. You should check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it says, druid with a severe pollen allergy trying to control winds to direct them away from their nose. As someone who's allergic to pollen, holy crap, would that be incredible. I haven't been able to mow a lawn in my entire life because by the time I would get back inside, I would be twice my size.
Yeah.
So I might just want to start learning wind gust in real life.
Just a constant, like, swirling motion, like, spewing it all away.
Yeah, like, oh, frick, I'm out of spell slots for the day. Gotta go take my reactant. Like...
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Nelson.
I like that. That's good. That's good character.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Nelson, and thank you for being a fan.
Thank you for being a fan.
Okay, I got another one here. We got one from Faith Vulpes, the fox one, that says, on characters based on dice. Another short that you should go check out. Me fighting the urge to just full send making nothing but sorcerers. Give in! Give in! Just do it! Sorcerers are good!
Just make them until you can't make them anymore, and then that's when you know you've won. It's that's me with warlocks, man. I help friends make characters very frequently, and they'll be like, oh man, I had this idea for a character, and I'll just look at them straight up, be like, yeah, that sounds like a warlock. Again, every time.
You can do it. You can make another sorcerer. I think you should. I'm an enabler.
You're the instigator.
Yeah. So, thank you, Faith Vulpes.
Vulpes.
And you can do it. I believe in you.
But anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. And remember, if you want a chance to be featured in an episode, leave a comment, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.
Thanks.